just recognize distinguished guests in the room with us. First, I recognize our ambassador. She's known to most of you, Ambassador Seretse, who's the ambassador of Botswana to the United States. And also recognize Ms. Heidi Shoup, who's the World Affairs Council president for the DC chapter. Welcome, Ms. Shoup. World Affairs Council members, welcome. Welcome. You really made our evening by sharing this evening, your time with us tonight. World Affairs Council is renowned for its facilitation of discussion on international issues. So that is something that we share with the embassy. And on fostering awareness among peoples about each other, about the world, about our differences, our commonality, and also promoting a mutual understanding and accommodation among us as the human family. So we are in this together. Our role here in the diplomatic community is just to promote those very values. And World Affairs Council, as a civil society organization, shares the values with us. And so we are in this together, and that's why we're especially excited that you are here tonight. The embassy is particularly honored about the spotlight on Botswana by the World Affairs Council. Botswana is a relatively small country. We're about the size of Texas, the state of Texas. It's big, but in terms of Texas is huge. But as far as when you look at the U.S. as a country, Texas is just a state within this huge subcontinent. But in our smallness, don't let our smallness deceive you. What we lack for in terms of geographical size and maybe economic might, we make up for in our vibrancy as a nation, and in our commitment to democracy, governance, and shared development. We have a rich history and culture of democracy that Botswana has developed and also refined throughout the years, thanks to our founding fathers. They have left us a really good legacy that we have a challenge to uphold as a country. That being said, let me not say much and say that you'll hear a lot about that from the ambassador's speech tonight. So I'll leave that to her. She does that extremely well, better than I can ever profess to. So prepare yourself to be excited, inspired, and challenged by the ambassador. So with those remarks, I really welcome you once again to the embassy, and thank you for sharing your time with us. I would like to invite Ms. Shoup to the floor and to give us her remarks. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. Council. Thank you. Our host this evening is Ambassador Thobela Mazili-Seretse, the Ambassador of the Republic of Botswana to the United States since 2012. She previously served as a member of Parliament and in the cabinet in several ministries, including trade, industry, wildlife, and tourism. Ambassador Seretse attended Morgan State University just down the road here in Baltimore and earned a Master's of Arts degree from the University of Cincinnati and an LLB from the University of Botswana. Earlier in her career, she worked as an attorney in her family's law firm, as a trade negotiator and entrepreneur, assisting women in establishing businesses in Botswana. On behalf of the board and members, I want to thank you, Ambassador, for hosting us this evening And thank you for your support of building bridges between nations and your efforts on behalf of global education for all nations' youth. I know that we're all very interested in your remarks, so I won't take any more time. We're looking forward to it, and thank you again. Madam Ambassador.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shu, and welcome to all of you. We are the ones who are very, very honored. We know you could have been elsewhere. We also know that you have other important engagements that you could be doing. But in all of that, tonight you chose to come and be here in the country of Botswana. I don't want to say in the embassy of Botswana, because when you are here, imagine yourself that you are in Southern Africa and you are at the creme de la creme of countries, which is the Republic of Botswana. I'm going to ask my staff to move in closer here so that our guests can see them, so that after this, if they want to ask specific questions to interact, they should do so. Whilst they are coming, I have two young ladies that I am going to ask to come here, our Yali fellows, and I am going to give them each a minute to introduce themselves, who are from Botswana. I am waiting. Where are they? Come through there. Please quickly introduce yourself.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Satana Ngobe, and we are here in the United States at the invitation of President Obama. I'm attending his Young African Leaders Initiative, which is a program which brought 500 young African leaders to the United States to attend some of the top universities in the United States and to then go on and participate in internships at some development organizations and at some private sector companies. The whole idea of the Young African Leaders Initiative is to foster closer ties between the United States and Africa so that we can increase trade. And the whole idea was for us to come into the United States and learn best practices so that we can take them back to Africa.
Good evening. My name is Kate. We are both in the program that was initiated by President Obama in 2010, and she has said all that can be said about the program. And we were in 3 different tracks. There was business and entrepreneurship, there was civic management and public management. I was in public management, she was in business and entrepreneurship. For the academic program, it was based in Miami and at the University of Florida International University. And after the academic program, I came here to DC. I'm currently interning at the American Speech and Hearing Association. I'm an audiologist by profession. And thank you for coming to our embassy and giving a chance to meet you all.
Staff, please come forward quickly so that you will be known. I also request the local staff, if they are here, any of them, to come. We have Colonel Tobani, starting from that side, our military and defense attaché, our admin assistant, Ms. Mighty Muhuruti, our first secretary, Ms. Chenesane Asa. You have Ms. Morage, who you just met, who is our Minister Council. Ms. Nelma Ruping is our education attaché. She looks after the students who are sponsored by the Botswana government in the United States. Master Baipidi, who is our training attaché. This is one of the most important ladies, Ms. Mpuchani. She looks after the money. And then we have Ms. Mimi Poland, who looks after our library and our registry. And we also have Ms. Maumwa Matenge, who also looks at, who is an accounts clerk. And we have Mr. Masehong Komota, who is, when we talk trade and everything. So please, after this, feel free to mingle, ask them questions, and interact. Thanks to you. Having said that, as you know, Botswana is a landlocked country. Often, other countries, when they talk about Botswana democracy, they make it to be akin to the Western type of democracy. We would like to think that our democracy is unique, and not only unique, but home-brewed. If you read that note about the Khotla, and you know the unfortunate thing is that there isn't anything, I don't have an English interpretation of the Khotla. And I think sometimes when we try to interpret it in English, it steals away the essence of what exactly a Khotla is. But for lack of better words, it's like a tribal court where you have plaintiff and defendant. Don't ever visit Botswana without visiting a Khotla. It's free invitation to everybody. For the ladies, we are better off to go in the Khotla without pants. But sometimes I think they may excuse you that you are a visitor, but it's preferable that you have a skirt, not a mini skirt, something covering the knees would be totally acceptable. So all of us sit in the Khotla. The plaintiff states their case, the chief presides, the defendant states their case. From there, it is for us, the people who are in attendance, to start commenting about whether the case is for the plaintiff or for the defendant, and to give our reasons. When you speak in the Khotla, everybody must respect your space and keep quiet. And then from there, the chief. These are not like appointed jurors and all of that. Anybody who is in the village and has the time to attend the Khotla attends. Not by sex, not by women, men, everybody, you know, but mostly it's adults. And then a judgment is then made. When we then got our independence in 1966, we used the Khotla as a consultative forum. So when there's an outbreak of disease, when the Secretary of Education, Secretary of Defense wants to share anything, they call what we call Khotla meetings. It's your old traditional town hall meetings. The difference, however, is that at the Khotla, we tell the president and the minister or whomever that we don't agree with the policy if we don't agree, and we give the reason. So people always have some forum where they want to air their differences, their grievances. So it is a very, very lovely structure. I remember once when I was in cabinet, a secretary, and we went to a Khotla meeting in my home village, in my constituency, in my congressional district. And I'm with the president. You know when you're with the president, you step high. You know, so I'm stepping high and, you know, and important. At the end of the presentation, somebody just gets up. Oh, Mr. President, thank you for what you have been saying. But this member of parliament of ours, ever since we elected her, we only hear about her in Gaborone. Gaborone is the capital city. We don't see her. We didn't vote her to be in the capital city. We voted her to be here. I'm thinking, how dare you, I am with the president. So when we then crafted our constitution and talked about freedom of association, freedom of speech, respect, tolerance, these were the values and the ethics that people could relate to. They were not foreign to them. So it made governance, and in any no matter what a remote area you go to in Botswana, you will have kgotla. So that informal disputes are resolved faster, lawyers are not expected and they are not allowed to represent anybody in the court. They can do that in the magistrate court. And the lawyers like that. They can do that in the magistrate court and in the high court, etc. So when most of the time we get asked, why is Botswana's democracy different? We attribute our foundation to our democracy, to the kgotla. So it is a very, very important structure. At independence in 1966, Botswana was the third poorest country in the world. But we were blessed because when we said to the British, thank you, we became a British protectorate by choice. Our chiefs in the 1800s went to Britain to protect us so that we don't get incorporated into South Africa, because we are landlocked. We share the border with South Africa, Zimbabwe, Zambia. You will notice that Southwest Africa, the now Namibia, South Africa and Zimbabwe, the then Rhodesia, all these three countries, which are our bordering countries, were practicing one form or the other of racial discrimination. But because we opened our borders, some of the refugees who came were qualified people. They were teachers, they were nurses. So they improved on us. To this date, most of the countries can come to Botswana without visa requirements. Yourselves, with the US passport, you don't have visa requirements. We wish there was some form of reciprocity. Now, in 1965, we went back and said, we are ready to govern ourselves. They said goodbye. And then we started mining diamonds. One of the questions I'm being asked, how did Botswana not suffer like the other countries from the so-called mineral killers? At independence, there were about 4 graduates total in the whole country. So one of the priorities was education. To this date, the government budget, the largest portion of the government budget, goes to education, which we provide free from primary to university with the government revenues. We also provide free health care, and anybody and everybody who is 65 years or older, they get a monthly allowance from government, and this is by no means test, just the age. So I'm crawling soon to get that. But the legislation on minerals was that we vest the mineral rights on the state. Almost everywhere in Botswana where there is common development, there have been settlement there. So people have been moved from their settlements to make way for the roads, to make way for infrastructure which benefits everybody, to make way for dams and those kind of things. But because the rights vest in the state, if I find a diamond mine in my yard, you know, I'm sure nowadays I can find an American lawyer who can argue that my property rights have to be respected. But the understanding is that the government will relocate you and then they would compensate you for whatever developments, either in cash or alternatively even find an equivalent land. Property rights in Botswana are cherished and they are protected by the Constitution. So the government revenues are pooled together, and the Minister of Finance every year when he states the budget speech, he then divides the money. It is done starting from the grassroots levels, from the villages. Kgotla meetings are called, and communities give priority, their shopping list. That our priority is school, our priority is teachers' quarters, our priorities is public toilets, and then that is put into a basket and weighed. Unlike yourselves, we have something that we call the National Development Plan, which is a 6-7 year manifesto of saying, what are we going to do in the 7 years? What are the development priorities? So every year when the Minister of Finance says, these are the revenues and these are the expenditure, it has to come out of the National Development Plan, unless and only unless, if it is an emergency, we have foot and mouth, or we have more cattle in Botswana than people, so we eat a lot of beef. And then I think we also have more diamonds than people. But when you go to our diamond mines, especially Orapa, we want to know, what did you eat for breakfast? Who is your mama? What are you wearing today? What is your shoe size? What is your business? You don't get into that mining town without a permit. So that's how we protect our diamonds. This is why we get very hurt when we hear that, oh, conflict diamonds, don't buy diamonds. Because ourselves, our police don't carry guns, but if you want to get shot, there are 2 things in Botswana that you should mess up with. Diamonds, wildlife. We cherish them to the bottom of the bottom. It was only when I was here as ambassador in 2011 that one American came and said, Ambassador, if I wanted to buy diamond in Botswana, what do I do? I didn't know the answer. And I had been a secretary in cabinet. Because when you talk about diamonds, we just hear the word diamonds. We know they pay school fees, they pay the health bill, but the intricacies of the dealings of the diamond, we did not know. But the diamond market operates like the oil market, OPEC, oligopoly, monopoly type of market. The diamond trading company, which was based out of London, is the one where the countries pool their diamonds there and they get sold from there. If you try to trade your diamonds out of the group, we go to price war with you and we will cut you until you join us. Now, because of the concerns of the conflict diamonds, we had to then introduce what is called the Kimberley process. That if you go to Tiffany's, you can insist for them to tell you that diamond on the ring, what mine does it come from? Last year, the United States of America was the chair of the Kimberley process, and all the good diamonds go there. The most painful part, and I'm concluding with diamond, is that the so-called conflict countries of diamonds do not produce 0.01% of total global diamonds. Not 1%, 0.01%. So you can see how the handsome Leonardo DiCaprio with blood diamonds, how much damage sometimes can happen, especially if it is happening to vulnerable groups who do not know and who do not research. So last year, Botswana managed to move the diamond trading company out of London to Gaborone. We are excited, it's big. So, and thank you. And with that, I think we are the only African country that has a little bit of shareholding, in DBS. So because of how we managed, because of the transparency, because of lack of corruption, because everyone knows where the revenues are coming from and where they are going to, and you cannot vary what has been agreed to by Parliament, that is why we do not suffer from the resource curse. For over 27 years, Botswana has ranked as the least corrupt country on the African continent. We take that seriously and we continue to challenge ourselves so that we can improve. The other positive indices are that the 2014 baseline profitability index for the business people has ranked Botswana #1 in the world. Global Peace Index, you would know, and I say this with respect, please, I want to remain your friends. Whilst we rank in the #33, the US ranks as #100 and something. So we are more peaceful than here. in the US. This is why also it is very rare to meet too many Botswana diaspora. They finish school, they go back home, but we keep saying to some of them, you know, take the skills from the US, do the partnerships, and come with the partnerships there. In 2016, we will be turning 50 years old as a country. So some time back, learning from Malaysia, Singapore, which were the leaders in terms of Asian Tigers growth, we came with a vision for the country, and that vision is called Vision 2016, when the country will be 50 years old. And again, the way the vision principles were obtained was that we held Hotline meeting asking the one question: average Motswana, whether you're at school, no school, even though our literacy rates are very high, asking them, in 50 years, or after 50 years of self-rule, what kind of Botswana would you like to see? And out of that, we formed our vision manual. Botswana said we would like to see a more educated, that all of us are educated, would like to be innovative, we would like to be compassionate, we would like to be secure as a nation. And out of that, we formed what we call the pillars of Vision 2060. And each and every ministry, each and every department must always report on what is your ministry doing towards achieving the vision. And now that the vision is just around the corner, we can see that we have achieved some of the things, others we have not achieved. Access to education, I think we are doing fairly well on it. No gender bias. Girls, boys, everybody go to school. We also don't have any child marriages, thank God. Neither do we have women's sex mutilation. It is not part of our culture. So we encourage our girls, both girls and boys, to go to school and study. So because also in the vision we said we would like to be innovative and we would like to be prosperous and progressive, out of that was born the Innovation Hub. We have 6 hubs which are taken to be the next areas where if the country concentrates on, it will become a country of excellence, which is where we are going. So the Innovation Hub, we are inviting yourselves, companies, ITC companies, people who want to innovate technologies, to have space. We are putting up a state-of-the-art building. There's been land which has been allocated there next to the Diamond Park, and I believe the architect is, I don't want to say young men, but I believe they are younger than myself. They're based out of New York, and we are working with them to come with the state-of-the-art. But it is not the building we are concerned about. It is what goes into the building. We want all the top companies to be able to come there and help to improve us, to be innovative, to be prosperous, not only in technology, but also in indigenous knowledge. What are some of the things that we've been doing traditionally which we could improve on? What are some of the African magical myths, and which ones are the myths and which ones have substance, to have space at the Innovation Hub so that we would be able to move ourselves to a higher level. We see ourselves as the African country of excellence. And I say that without shame, without apology, because that is where we are going to. I've also been asked to touch a bit on the Botswana-US bilateral relations. Botswana got its independence in 1966. This embassy was first opened, not here, Vanessa Center. It has moved from place to place, and luckily somebody was smart for us to buy this building, which was really a good investment. We got our independence in '66. The embassy was first opened in 1967. So we have had excellent, and we continue to have excellent relationships with the United States. Some time back when our nation was getting wiped out because of HIV/AIDS, we came back to the US and said, please help us. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Merck, Harvard Institute, Texas Children's Hospital, and many others came to our rescue, and now today we are being used as what countries must do given the problem of HIV/AIDS. One, it helped us to some extent because out of every negative there's a positive. The positives coming out of HIV/AIDS is that we started breaking the cultural barriers and started to teach our children sex education. That has seen teenage pregnancy going down and almost to negligible levels. It has also helped us to be resilient given any outbreak of any disease. Botswana, for instance, was the first country. In our phones, Botswana people, we are 90–100% teledensity, so almost everybody has a cell phone. I have my Botswana cell phone here in the United States. I received a message explaining what Ebola was, what precaution, what the signs are. And that message went to everybody who has a cell phone. And then we also closed our borders. So if you go to our borders and you have been to any of the countries with Ebola, we can quarantine you or we send you back. Because we are small, we are vulnerable, and sometimes we need to take harsh measures so that we protect ourselves. This is why CNN, that I love so much, pains me when they then say a doctor has arrived in Atlanta from Africa with Ebola. There is not such thing as Africa. It's 54 African individual countries, not states, 54 different presidents, and I think the summit, if there was nothing else that the summit could be deemed to have achieved, even though it achieved a lot, was to educate the American public that these are 54 different countries with different presidents. Others speak Spanish, others speak Portuguese, others speak French. So from now onwards, when you live here, of course you are going to be talking about Botswana. The place of Jill Scott, #1 ladies detective, you know, and all of you who have read the book, you know what I'm talking about. The books, I read each and every one of them because the author, Alexander McCall Smith, is the one who started the university law faculty of Botswana. So he is talking about what he knows. He goes there every year, and if you read the book, you would find that at least 65%, it kind of summarizes for you what is there. So, in conclusion, Botswana and the US have a lot of similarities. We both believe in democracy. We both believe in the rule of law. We used, whilst we were still classified as an LDC, least developed country, we used to get aid from the US, even food aid when we became a middle income country. Unfortunately, there are lots of programs that we cannot qualify for. We have a partnership with the North Carolina State, with the National Guard, and we do quite a lot of things. We have the Law Enforcement Academy. We qualify for AGOA, Africa Growth Opportunity Act. President Clinton, President Bush have all visited, not Bush Jr., have all visited Botswana, and President Bush was actually in Botswana, I think about 6–7 months back again, introducing the pink ribbon breast cancer thing of his. President Obama hasn't been, but he has been through Michelle Obama, who visited Botswana in 2011. We have some regional challenges, and they include the fact that #1, we are landlocked. We have long borders and border challenges, immigration issues. which we are grappling with. We are also grappling with it at some time. We also have problems of poaching, sometimes because of the long border. We have shortages of power. There is no business which is saturated in Botswana, so whether you want to go and do small scale, large scale, whatever, we have the lowest tax regime in the area, and you can repatriate, and in the country you can also, with our banks, open your accounts in the US dollar if you so wish. If you go to the ATM in Botswana, you can withdraw your money using your PIN code, just like you can be here. Our challenges also are lack of diversified economy based on tourism and on diamonds, and we have a wish to eradicate poverty, to see our people living and reducing or improving that Gini coefficient that goes with us in Botswana. So we are there, we try. We are not a country of perfection, but we strive for excellence. And with those, we are most honored that tonight you chose none other than us to come and share this evening with. Thank you very much. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, obviously. Questions. We will take a few questions. Yes.
Thank you for the...
Oh, why don't you just take this? I'm loud enough.
I'm personally loud, but...
Okay.
Both? Okay. Thank you for the opportunity first. I'm a senior.
Shall we give him a chance? Yes, sir.
I'm
Sorry,
pretty sure-
ladies. Hello, Masero. Yes, thank you.
My gratitude to you, Ambassador. I'm a senior, actually. I came from Ethiopia 2 years ago, and I want to express my salutation and my appreciation for your invitation first. Thank you. My question is, you said you have problems about power and you're landlocked and poaching, right? So if you have been following the Ethiopian current progress about building a dam, which deals with, as we all know, Blue Nile is the main source of the Nile, and it originates from Ethiopia, and we are trying to build a dam that would provide power source so that we can sell to other countries and create a mutual relationship to either Botswana or any other country in need of electric sources or any other. So what would you say in establishing relations so that first the mutualism would also enhance the traditional encounters between two nations? And so to make my statement brief, how would you respond?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take several questions and then I'll answer. Another question or comment? Do I see another hand? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. My name is Ross Ensor. I'm work for a consulting firm that helps US businesses go into the Middle East and Africa, or African countries, taking a cue from yourself. And recently we heard in the Africa Leaders Summit a big push for US companies to do more trade with African countries. There's a limit to what the various governments can do in African countries. I think Botswana seems to be on the cutting edge in terms of governance, reduction of corruption, good infrastructure. What would you say are the key things for US businesses and the US government to do to help improve the situation with trade between two areas?
Okay. Another? Okay.
Hi, Ian Oliver.
Hi, Ian.
I will jump on Ross's comment because I actually work with Ross So I would ask it's about the Innovation Hub, because I'm actually really proud to say that I was in this embassy in '99 on the Botswana Development Training Project. Where did you go? Thank you. We worked together over 10 years ago. Fantastic. And we actually helped students from Botswana come here to get undergraduate, graduate degrees. So now that you're using those resources so well, you're going to do an innovation hub. Couldn't you also look outward in the rest of the continent and become a hub for the rest of the continent? Because really, US companies struggle for their entry point, their window. And while we want to think that the South Africa is, and it could arguably be for banking, they're just as skeptical of the rest of the continent as Americans are. So I just sort of feel like, based on your remarks, that could be an opportunity, a business opportunity.
Thank you very much. I'll start with the last question. I think for a long time, Botswana didn't even itself realize the potential, not just of the country, but of its people, who are really our #1 resource. We have recently seen the encouragement by our government to go and assist in Sudan, to go and assist in terms of employment, in terms of setting up the processes. I don't know at this point how well that is going, but I think we have established ourselves enough, yes, to be a hub to other African countries, to exchange our best practices and to exchange what we know. I think gone are the days that knowledge was just in the European countries, because we are seeing some of the leading countries in a lot of things, even as simple as women empowerment. If you look at Rwanda, for instance, it is the world global leader in terms of women empowerment, biased naturally, as I am expected to be. I think it is also because when the women go to work, they're thinking of improving the welfare of their children. They're thinking more family. You educate a woman, you educate the nation. So when you look at the ease of doing business, for instance, you can take Mauritius as an example. I just talked about Botswana being the #1 baseline profitability index. So yes, I think as we are promoting intra-Africa trade, intra-regional trade, you are going to see a lot and better things coming. What is always forgotten is that the average age of an African country is 50 years or less. So these are young democracies that the world is expecting for them to be running like mature democracies. Democracy itself is a process, it's not an event. It evolves over time, and there are going to be stumbling blocks to fall. And as people become democratic, so do the demands increase. Now, whilst people used to just be satisfied maybe with governments which can do X, now they want Y, they want more. It's unfortunate because when we look at the Egypt problem, there is no positives that we are taking out of there. To me, naturally, I always look at every negative thing and look at what is the good. The good which came out of Egypt, or the revolution, or whatever they called it, you know, spring, whatever, was that we saw people saying, we will not accept governments which are not democratic. That was the first thing. The second lesson we learned from there was that they achieved that by using technology. Technology which most probably, 90% of the chance, none of it is produced in Egypt. So it showed how the globe can come together, that when something happens in Botswana, when something happens here, you'd hear about it in Botswana first. Why? Because they're also ahead of us. So as we are sleeping, they are up. So these dynamics are dynamics which are not to be taken for granted, because when we're talking about the phenomena of globalization, is for us to take the positives and to guard our sons from the American styles of going with their pants at the bottom here and another pant here, or wearing the pants. But because of the television and everything, they see it, it's hip, all of a sudden you see them moving around and you say, pull your pants up. Yeah, but, you know, so globalization brings with it the good and the bad. And it is important for countries to guard themselves in saying, what do we accept to move ahead and what is not our culture. Having said and talked about the young democracies, sometimes we call on our partners to be a little bit more patient with us, because wherever they are, we will get there. But we may get there in a different route, as you'll see, unlike how they got there. The businesses that you assist, the US, the Middle East, and what is it that we can do to have more trade? What are the elements? When I was a student of economics, I was taught that here in the United States, and we went and we teach it in Africa, that when there is no corruption, when there is the rule of law, when there is transparency in government, when the ease of doing business indices are good, when there is transferability and you can repatriate your profits, when the tax structure is accommodating, when the leaders are accessible to their people. So we took that model and applied it to the Republic of Botswana. We haven't achieved wonders, but we have achieved fairly about 70% plus of those requirements of the indices. The question is, why are we today still crying for investment? So if those theories were correct, we would be having so much investment in Botswana, we would say, please go elsewhere. But investors, sometimes as much as they say corruption, sometimes they are the ones who come with corruption. So when we talk about corruption, we need to balance the equation and say, whilst we have the laws for the corrupted, the corruptors, we also need to take very stern action, not only in the host countries, but in the countries from whence they come from. So, market size is also going to be an issue. Botswana, we are a population of 2 million. That's why we talk about SADC, Southern African Development Community, an economic bloc of 14 countries. This is why West Africa talks about ECOWAS, even though they have the number. East Africa talks about East African Community. Now you also have this regional integration where now other members are COMESA and SADC, but it is pleasing to see that SADC, COMESA, and Eastern African Community are starting to talk and say, how could we merge? How could we make it easy? And because regionality as per SADC, we want to have common tariffs, common laws. A 3-star hotel is rated the same in Namibia, in South Africa, as it is. So we are going there, but because we are young democracies and we are imbalanced and sometimes challenged because of democracies, lack of democracies, or not understanding democracy in the same interpretation, sometimes it takes a little bit long. But the traditional macro requirements of what should prevail in an economy to attract investment still stands. The other question I was asked of was, you are talking about power problems in Ethiopia. Please send some of it to us. The only thing that we need to guard as a continent and in our individual countries is that in the quest of doing electricity and other things, we should bear in mind the protection of the environment. Of course, when we have a resource, we must start with the resource that we have because it's easier. So we need to always bear in mind what are the consequences. The Botswana lesson can be used as a model because, for instance, we are into mining. And this is why our relations with the US, we couldn't have done those mines without CAT. So Caterpillar, whilst Americans do not know about Botswana, there is no single company which knows about Botswana than Caterpillar, because this huge machines. This is why we are also having partnerships with Peoria in Illinois, which is the headquarters of Caterpillar. But let us protect the environment. There is no country in Africa which doesn't have a relationship with Ethiopia. Why? AU. That is our headquarters. That's where we go to talk about our, our strategies as Africa, where we are going. So we need to increase this intra-regional trade. We should stop situations where you hear that Angola is getting beef from Brazil. And you say Angola getting beef from Brazil. Information and statistics is important. But as we African countries sometimes produce it 2 years in arrears, it's not, you can't make a business decision based on 2-year late statistics. We need to get our statistics. We need to share more information with the internet so that if you are looking for beef, you know Botswana, our beef is better than Texas beef. You know that Botswana, you know that Namibia, you know wherever.
Can I have a follow-up real quick?
I don't want to, you are a student, I don't want you to monopolize this thing.
Okay.
Follow up.
Okay, sorry, just one. The African Union, we have discussed that in 2020,
Yes.
we
The
will
agenda.
have just like the United States, the United African Union, right? And we would have our own currency and we would utilize our own resources. So how do you think, because I'm not saying we plan 8 years ahead, like thinking about 8 years ahead, I live at the present, but how do we think about those relations? And
The good thing is that we are not recreating the wheel. We have seen what has happened to the euro, and you are seeing the development of some European countries saying, should we have this common monetary unit? Because why? Because of the disparities in the economy. I have a stronger pillar. I peg to my basket, including the SDR. Somebody is now, maybe Zimbabwe now using the US dollar, or if I take the Zimbabwean dollar. So if we are going to use the currency, common currency, whose currency, what are the implications? And once we get that intra-regional thing and commonality of processes and similarities of laws, predictability, more independent and more, more democracy, more valuable elections. I think things like currencies, taking away the passport and bringing down the borders and moving around each other and taking similar and quick action when there are outbreaks, because they would come of people, of cattle, of animals, of buffaloes, of whatever, and taking agree. So you will see that it would not be an issue. Any bedding platform questions?
Excuse me.
Yeah,
I think for the sake of time,
but
you can have it bilateral.
no, I'm going to take a woman. Thank you.
Sorry.
Gender.
The last one.
Quick question. And you alluded to this a little bit when you were discussing how you ensure that the diamond funds were kind of equitably distributed.
Yes,
but when you're coming in with private industry and bringing in more partners from other countries who are going to be looking more at corporate interests, how will you make sure that the development that occurs would be in a more equitable fashion? Like I know, for example, like Namibia had a lot of issues with that in terms of inequality, and how do you think you can prevent some of those things from happening in Botswana?
Because De Beers was a monopoly, and to some extent still continues to be a monopoly. Even when we were negotiating the first contracts, there wasn't even a single lawyer in Botswana. We couldn't even understand those contracts. So we engaged experts who were schooled and qualified. But still, when we now became of age and now we have a woman attorney general, as we were negotiating the renewal, and I believe that contract must have been, 30 years or more. The renewal, we saw more dynamism. We saw negotiations which took more than a year. to agree. So we allow private sector because we are satisfied that the laws and the processes in place would ensure that equitably. We also encourage, without forcing, corporate responsibility, which is the catchword, to say, you know, how are you working with us? And I invite all of you. We have a program here called Adopt a School. So you can find any schools. We have, I don't know, in Botswana, we probably primary schools, we have more than 1,000. High schools, we probably have 500 or thereabout. Universities also, plus minus 10, they're private and public. So we have programs of Adopt the School because we believe it is people-to-people diplomacy, which at the end of the day beats any other diplomacy, because if you understand my culture, I understand yours, it breeds tolerance. And if we are tolerant, you can pray how you wish. I can pray my African gods, and we can still converge and say, all of us are praying to the same God who would answer all of us in an equitable way. Thank you very much.
I think I can speak for everyone here in saying that we all learned many more things about Botswana tonight than we did when we walked in the door. So we thank you for that, and we'd like to present you with this certificate. I'll just read it. It says, Her Excellency Dr. Lilo Mazili Saritsi, Ambassador of the Republic of Botswana to the United States, in recognition of outstanding commitment to global education and international affairs.